Kairete. This is Abbey Greek, biblion tal prооton, Chapter 1. This is a video lesson on history of the Greek alphabet, and the classical pronunciation and accentuation of that alphabet. First, let us begin at the beginning with the earliest pictograms. In the earliest forms of writing, we use pictures of objects to convey meaning. So think of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. So over time, pictures became less elaborately made and they became more symbolic. So we begin with, say, an ox. And of course, what is the most identifying characteristic of the ox? Why, horns on top of the head. So cute little ox with the horns. Over time, we start to become less elaborate in drawing this ox head, and it becomes more abstract, more symbolic. We keep the horns because, what's an ox without its horns? Then this symbol gets turned around, it's flipped over, whatever side it is. Now we know it. If you turn your head over to the right, you can see the letter A right here. This is the alep, which is the word for ox. And the sound, the the first sound of the word ox, the first sound of the symbol, the thing that this is, that becomes the sound that that letter, that symbol then makes. So ox and aleph and this becomes the sound for A. And then likewise we have, say, a crude drawing of a house, and then more abstract, and then if we flip it, and then if we go ahead and give it another little doodad right here, and then give it the mirror version, flip it over, you can see the B. And then here we have, say, I always was taught as a camel, because of course when you see a camel, what is the most distinguishing characteristic of the animal? And that is of course the humps. But I've also heard that, that's too fanciful. So really it's a walking stick. Like, okay, sure guys. I mean, we're really never going to know. So either it looks like this, or it can be like this. It can be either representative of a camel's hump or a walking stick. And we get giml, camel. It makes a g sound, whereas this makes a b sound. This makes an a sound because this is aleph and ox. This is bet, a house, and this is giml, camel or walking stick. And altogether we have the Phoenician abjad. So aleph, bet, giml, dalet, he, wa, zayin, etc. all the way down. Each one of these means something, and then the first sound of that word becomes the sound that that symbol then makes. So the Phoenician abjad, because the Phoenicians were great sailors, they went all over the Mediterranean. Their abjad was adopted by the Greeks. So we have an abjad, that is a system in which each symbol of writing stands for a consonant. Because if you look right here at the Phoenician, they really do not put down any vowels. Now we do have the aleph, the a. Because remember that Phoenician is a Semitic language, so it follows all the rules of Semitic languages, where they typically write the consonants, but not so much the vowels. The reader supplies the vowels. This was taken by the Greeks. The earliest indication seems to be in Euboea, the good cow place, the good cow country. It's that island off of Attica and Boeotia. So the Greeks make this abjad, where we represent consonants, not so much vowels. We turn this into an alphabet, an alpha, beta. It's a writing system where each symbol stands for a sound, and that sound can either be a consonant or a vowel. So we have the abjad over here. Notice it is written from right to left, because Semitic language, that's just what Semitic languages do. Early Greek alphabet was also written right to left. And if you look at sort of the mirror images, you can see the letters emerging. There's A, there's B, there's G, which will become C, D, E, and then goes on from there. Now, notice that the last 4 letters down here, it's actually going to be 5, but the last 4 letters, the Phoenicians don't have. The Phoenicians stop at tal, at mark, right here. The Greeks continue. The Greeks add the upsilon, the phi, the chi, the psi, and then also later on the omega. Omega is formed by putting 2 omicron, 2 little O's together into a big omega, mega O. The earliest Greek inscription we found is the Nestor cup, the cup of Nestor, and of course it's the first word. Here's the text written down as we have it fragmented, and here's a reconstruction. You can see the dotted letters there. Those are the words that have been supplied. So you can see here N. You have to read it from right to left. So we have N, S, tor, os, Nestoros, Nestoros. So of course it's Nestor's cup, and that's pretty much what the inscription says. I am Nestor's cup. This is not your cup. This is Nestor's cup. So notice once again, whoop, reading from right to left, and that will change. Classical alphabet, we then flip this around so that now we're reading from left to right, the way that we do today. And the minuscules were added later, those smaller letters. So we have the big letters and then the little letters. So of course this is the alphabet as we know it, and the alphabet that we're going to use in class. Now, how did the Greek alphabet get all over the place in the Mediterranean? Well, first it started with the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians set all over the Mediterranean, encountered the Greeks. The Greeks took the alphabet. First it seems like the Euboeans. The Boians were the first one that got a hold of it. Now, one of the places in Euboea is Chalcis. And Chalcis, of course, it's full of Chalcidians. And what are Chalcidians famous for? They're famous for their colonists, the colonies that they sent out. So very early on in Greek history, near the end of the Dark Ages, the Greeks, they start colonizing all over the Mediterranean. They go to Asia Minor, the Ionic coast. They go into Egypt and Levant, the Holy Lands. And they also make their way into Italy. The southern part of Italy in ancient times is known as Magna Graecia, Great Greece, because of the Greek presence and colonization there from a very early time. So, the Chalcidians in Euboea, they sent out colonies early on in Greek history, near the end of the Dark Ages, circa 8th century BC. And one of the places they went to was, of course, southern Italy. They settled in Cumae. They brought the alphabet with them. They brought their own special Euboean version of the Greek alphabet with them. And from there, that's how the Italians in Italy got a hold of the alphabet. So all of these other alphabets, they're derived from the Greek. Chalcidians gave their alphabet to the Etruscans in Italy. All of the Italic languages, at least the big ones, so Umbrian, the Piscean languages, Mesopic, Oscan, they use the Etruscan alphabet. Of course, the Etruscans use the Etruscan alphabet. There are other Italic languages and other Italic scripts. There are Northern Italic scripts, I'll show you in the next slide. But the Etruscan one is really important because there's another language, Old Latin, spoken by the Latini, the Latins, the Latin tribe of Latium, and they're the ones that get a hold of the Etruscan alphabet, and they turn it into, of course, what becomes the Latin alphabet. And then, of course, because of the Roman Empire, that's how the Latin alphabet became quite important in the history of Europe. Also, we get from the Greek the Gothic alphabet, the Glagolithic alphabet, and the Cyrillic alphabet, which is kind of an merge of the Latin alphabet and the Greek alphabet. But of course, the Latin alphabet is itself derived from the Greek. So let's check out all that, but pictorially with maps. So let's start in the east. In the east we have the Phoenician abjad. There in Phoenicia. Phoenician, a thalassocracy, so a sea power, a mercantile power, sail all over the Mediterranean, especially in North Africa. And of course, they make their way in this area too, and all the islands. So the Phoenician abjad, and that's what it looks like. So circa 1050 BC to around 150 BC, it has a pretty good run. And of course, they transmit their alphabet to the Greeks here. Now, there are a lot of variants of the Greek alphabet in ancient times until finally all the variants merge into the one that we know and love today. But it's the Euboean that's pretty important because, of course, it's the Euboean. Euboea is that island right here, the good cow country. That's, of course, where Chalcis is. And those Chalcidians sent out a colony first up here. So if you're ever wondering, why is this place known as Chalcidia or Chalcidae? Because Chalcidians went there also. So never be confused about that anymore. There's Chalcis here in Euboea, one of their early colonies, Chalcidae right here. They also sailed all the way over there. This is Cumae in Italy. And there they transmitted their special flavor of the Greek alphabet, the Euboean version, to the Italic languages. So we have languages like Venetic, East Raetic, West Raetic, Camunic, and Lepontic. But not pictured there, very importantly, the Etruscan alphabet, which then, of course, if you look below that, don't those letters look familiar? So this is how the alphabet gets transmitted. We start here, and we can do a circle all the way around there. So that is how the alphabet that we know and love today, that's the Latin alphabet, that is how it came to be, and that is how it is related to the Greek alphabet. So you will see shades of the Latin alphabet within the Greek. The Greek is just an older model. Here are some fun things that didn't quite make it into the Greek alphabet, or is different from the Greek alphabet versus the Latin alphabet. So we'll start with the early Greek. We have the Phoenician, letter wa or va. This becomes the Old Greek digamma. We'll talk about the digamma later, the double gamma. It had the sound of W. So this early Greek word would be something like buenos. Now the Chalcidians, they left Greece, well, the colonists, they left Euboea pretty early on. So they carried their version of the alphabet with them, and their version of the alphabet, well, it had the digamma in it. So when they went to Italy and Cumae, they were still using the digamma. They were cool with the digamma. They were down with the digamma. So in the end, the Romans ended up with a letter that was kind of like the digamma. If you flip around the F right here, get rid of this, you get the V. This is why the Latin V, we know it as the V, was pronounced as W. So that early Greek word voinos, very similar to the Latin vinum. This means wine. Now, whereas the Italians are down with the digamma, the Greeks on the Grecian mainland, they're not. The digamma was lost. So meanwhile, the Italians, they got it early, and they kept it. The Greeks, no, they are not down with the digamma. The digamma gets lost. So the Greek word for wine is oinos. Oinos. So you might not think at first glance, vinum, oinos would be similar, but in the end, they're pretty much kind of the same word. It's just you have to know that there's a digamma there. That also makes reciting Homeric poetry fun, because Homer, he had the digamma, but the digamma did not make it in the transliteration of the early Greek into the Greek that we know, the classical Greek. So more fun stuff to come. The Phoenician cough becomes the Old Greek koppa. Looks like this with the sound of qua. So it's like K, but like more back of the throat, like our Q. So the early Greek, we have a word like quis. So the Chalcidians, yeah, they took that to Italy. Guess who loves a qua sound, a QU sound? Why, the Romans. The Romans have qua sounds everywhere. Quis and quid and quae and quod and quibus. So many QUs all over Latin. So the Romans, they are really down with the qua, which came from, ultimately, the Phoenician cough. Well, the Greeks on the Greek mainland, classical Greek, they are not down with the cough. They are not down with the kappa. Though the kappa shows up in early Greek, it becomes either a kappa, a tau, or a gamma. So where the early Greek word was quis, meaning who, and of course Latin looks quis, that's very similar. Classical Greek, we have tis instead. So once again, first glance, tis and quis may not seem like they are related, but they're actually very close. And then the Phoenician sadhi morphs with pi to become the Old Greek sampi. And that sound, with a double S or a TS, was so weird that the Chalcidians were like, no, just no. And so the Chalcidians, they didn't even bother to give it to the Italians. The Italians are like, what's that over there? What's that letter? And the Chalcidians say, oh, you wouldn't like it. And so the Italians didn't ask after it anymore. But the same thing happened on the Grecian mainland. The sampi, as fun as it may be, was ultimately lost. So anyway, the transmission of the Greek alphabet, ultimately, Phoenician. It's also related to Hebrew, Aramaic. So then we have the Phoenician becomes the early Greek, which then ultimately all those early Greek scripts merge into the classical Greek. The Chalcidians early on gave their alphabet to the Italians, especially the Etruscans, very important civilization in early Italy. The Etruscans, they gave their alphabet to the early Romans, the early Latini, the Latins, and then, of course, the Latins, very importantly, the Romans. We have classical Latin. They transmitted their alphabet, classical Latin, into the Latin alphabet that we know and love today. Of course, we have to add a consonantal I, which is J, and a W later on. But it's pretty much what we have today. We also have Russian Cyrillic, which is a merging of the Latin and the Greek, and then German Gothic, because, yeah, why not? All right, all these alphabets, and you can see the similarities between them. So let's focus on the Greek alpha beta. So the alphabet, based off that Phoenician abjad, the Greek alphabet has famously 24 letters. There are 24 books of the Iliad, there are 24 books of the Odyssey. Why? Because there are 24 letters of the Greek alphabet. Each book gets a letter. Works out nicely. I wonder who made it work out that way like that. So, here we go. Make sure you know the Greek alphabet in order. Make sure you know the letters. So alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, upsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega. You could put this to a little song, like I'm a little teapot or something like that, to get something like alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, upsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega. Something silly like that, something that you can repeat over and over again so you get the sound of the letters down. Make sure you also practice the script, how to write these, and I have markings for that in the packets. Make sure you follow the arrows. Let's go through them one at a time, relating them back to the Old Phoenician. So once again, the Old Phoenician, the alep, the ox, there's our old friend the ox with the distinguishing horns right there. And of course, once you flip the letter the way that we know it, it looks very similar. So the majuscule A, minuscule alpha. So alpha, its transliteration is of course A, and its sound is A. We have bet, house, becomes the Greek beta, with the sound B. Old Phoenician giml, say, throwing stick, a walking stick, or even the camel. So it could be the hump, or it could be a crook that you lean on. So we have gamma, gamma, transliteration. This is a ga, and it's like get. Never soft, never ja. Never like the G in gem. It's always ga, a hard G. Dalet, a door, becomes the Greek delta, delta. This is the letter D. Old Phoenician he, window, becomes the Greek epsilon, epsilon, which means simple, simple simple e. So it's a short e. This is a short e, a simple e. The sound is like the e in bet, so it's just an epsilon. This is one of the lost letters. This one's fun. This one's the degama, based off of the Old Phoenician wa, or a va, a hook. So degama, a double gamma. You can see there's one gamma, there's the other gamma. So a double gamma. It's a gamma stacked on top of a gamma. Transliteration, wa, w, like the sound wine. You will probably not see this one very much. If you go looking in the poetry of Bacchylides, the degama should still show up. It really doesn't anymore. Like you probably won't find a Homeric text with the degama still added. So you'll see words like anax instead of wanax, and oinos instead of loinos, etc. We have the Old Phoenician-ayin, a weapon, becomes the Greek zeta, zdeta. We transliterate that as a z. The sound is more like an sd, like in wisdom, zda, zda, zdeta. So the big guy, the big daddy Zeus, he's Steus, Steus, Steus. The Old Phoenician het is a courtyard, some sort of walled enclosure. This becomes the Greek eta, eta, and we transliterate that as an e with a macron over it, as a long e. Though I say make the sound of a as in paper, a, kind of is like that. It's like a longer epsilon. So it's really just two epsilons put together. So it's not just but it's eta, eta. Originally, this was H, and some of the old Greek scripts recorded this down as H and used it as the H that we know and love. And that's how the Chalcidians gave it to the Italians. So that's why we look at this and we say, that's an H, dude. That's a long E sound? That totally looks like an H. And that also kind of looks like an H. Just make that swift go up. But no. This is classical Greek. It's a long E. It's eta. The Old Phoenician tet becomes the Greek theta, theta, theta. We transliterate that as a th. Really, it's a tau. It's the Greek letter tau, but aspirated. So like the English pothole, toll, theta, theta. You should be able to hold your hand in front of your mouth, and when you say ta, there's a sharp burst of breath from your mouth. Hits your hand. Ta, ta. Now say ta without having that much air hit your hand. That's tau. When we get to tau, that will be the sound of tau. This is tau, but aspirated, so give it that breath. So ta. Theta, theta. The Old Phoenician-yod becomes the Greek iota, iota. We transliterate this as an I. Now remember, this can, like Latin, this can be either a vowel I or consonant I, like it is in its name, iota, iota. The sound of the vowel is like the I in pin, just a simple I. The long iota is like an E in machine. E, P, E, E. The short is the long is I. The Old Phoenician kop gives us the Greek kappa. We transliterate that, or at least I transliterate that as a K. So, it has been practiced to transliterate that as sort of a Latin hard C. I like to use the K because Greek doesn't have a C. So K. Just a K sound. No aspirate. So if you put your hand back in front of your mouth and make the K sound, there should be little breath that comes out of your mouth and hits your hand. Different letter, Chi, is when you have the breath hit your hand. So for kappa, very little air should hit your hand. The Old Phoenician lamed, a goad. What's a goad? A goad is a pokey stick. Normally people use a goad, a pokey stick, to poke animals, to drive them, to make them go places. But of course, you can use a goad against your sibling, but your parents would get mad. So a goad is a pokey, annoy stick. So from lamed, goad, we get the Greek lambda. Transliteration, it's just an L, like let, just a normal L, la. The Old Phoenician mem, water, we get the Greek mu. Transliteration, it's an M, like in met, just a normal M, mu. The Old Phoenician-nun, a serpent, a s, gives us the Greek nu. Transliteration N, with the sound net, n, n. Yes, get used to that V-looking thing being an N, n. I go ahead and, in my brain, add a little swishy down here, so it looks more like an N. Samek, samek. I've heard this means pillar, but I've also heard that is not true. Pillar or support. Samek gives us the Greek xi, xi. So x is just K and S together. So x, x, xi. Axiom, axiom. Greek does like to start some words with a x, a xi. So have fun with that, like xenos. The Old Phoenician-ayin, like an I, and of course, hey, it's very distinguished as an I. The Greek we have o, mikron, little, micro, o, little o, and we transliterate that as little o. We don't need to put the breve over top of it, little o. The sound is like o, optics, just little o. The omega will be the big version, omega, omicron. The Old Phoenician pe, meaning mouth, looks kind of like an anime mouth, pe. We get the Greek pi, pi. Transliteration, just a P, and it makes the sound pa, P. No aspirate, so put your hand in front of your mouth again and go pet. There should be very little air hitting your hand. If a lot of air hits your hand, that's the sound of pi, phi. This is pi. Very little air should hit your hand. No aspirate. One of those lost letters. This is sadi. The Old Phoenician sadi, a papyrus plant, becomes the Greek sampi. So this merges with pi to give us this. Transliteration of double S or TS. You don't have to worry about that at all because even the Chalcidians thought this letter was worthless. Yeah, we're not keeping that, and nor are we telling the Italians about it. And then the Greeks, of course, they shoved this one under the rug, and that's that. That's the end of Sampi. Poor Sampi. As well as kappa. So the Old Phoenician kop, the eye of a needle, becomes the Greek kappa. Transliteration QU. You also do not have to worry about this guy because it's gone. It dropped out of the mainland. Of course, the Chalcidians gave it to the Latins, and the Romans love this letter. The Greeks, no, not so much. The Old Phoenician resh, head. If you flippity-dippity this letter over and give it its little tail, you can see the R. Same thing with the rho, the Greek rho. Give it its little tail right here, which it got in Italy. When it went to Italy, it grew a tail. And that's how we know it as the R. And it is slightly trilled, like in Latin, a r. Good old Mediterranean r. Mediterranean trilled R. The Old Phoenician shin, a tooth. So turn this guy on his side and you'll get the capital sigma. Now we have an initial medial version of sigma, this guy, also the final version. So we don't use this form when it's at the end. We use the final version at the end of a word, this sigma. Sigma. There's also the lunate sigma, where it just looks like a C, and that can be used initial, medial, and final. And the sound is like the S in set, and it is voiceless, so no z's, no z's. Make sure that your vocal cords are not vibrating when you say set. If you say zet, then you're doing it wrong. The Old Phoenician ta, and this is the last of the Phoenician letters. This is a mark. Make your mark. Okay, there it is, X, ta. So turn it on its side, and we get this. Cut the crossbar off the top, and we get what looks like RT. It is the Greek tau. Transliteration ta. Put your hand in front of your mouth again. Say tent. Don't let any air hit your hand, or don't let much air hit your hand. Little air can hit your hand. Once again, if you put that ta, ta, and a lot of air hits your hand, you're making the theta, the theta sound. So this is a tent, no aspirate. Now, for upsilon, the Greeks did use the Old Phoenician wall, which they also used for the digamma. So this does also become the upsilon. So simple, like epsilon, this is upsilon. So epsilon, simple U, as opposed to complicated U. There is no complicated U, there's just simple U. We transliterate this guy in English as a Y, So words like Byzantium with a bu upsilon, we say Byzantium with a by in English. That's just what we do. The sound is like in put, so but the long is like an in which is more like a French or a German sound, The little upsilon is like an put. Phi, the Greeks made up. They took the symbol, the letter itself, from kop, which we saw before for kappa. This is pi. It's like pi, but it's got the aspirate. So hand in front of mouth. So say pi, very little air hits your hand. Say pi, a lot of air should hit your hand, or quite a bit more air should hit your hand. It is commonplace to just go ahead and pronounce this letter as an F, like the way we say philosophy. But the classical Greeks would have said philosophia. So you can say philosophia if you really, really want, but the classical Greeks would look down on you. Philosophia. Now, the Greeks, not sure where they got chi. Chi, I transliterate this as, because I don't like C, I like KH. It is like the CH in chorus, not cha, but ka. So it's kappa, that's aspirate. So hand in front of mouth, say kappa, little air hits your hand. Chi, a lot of air should hit your hand. And then we have psi. Get used to that one. PS, psi, like in eclipse. And of course, yes, Greeks do sometimes start words with psi. And then omega. So not omicron, we have omega. And it's really one omicron and then another omicron fused together. So we get omega, big O. And we transliterate this guy as an O with a macron over it. All right. Let's run through that one again. And we'll go ahead and close this video down because we are getting a little bit lengthy at this point. And we'll pick up with other sounds and accentuation in another video. So let's go ahead and say the alphabet again. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, upsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega. And the vowels are in red. Remember, Phoenician doesn't really have the vowels as a Semitic language, so the Greek does here. We have alpha, epsilon, eta, iota, omicron, upsilon, and omega are the vowels. Excellent. Well done. We'll carry on in another lesson, finishing up sounds of the Greek alphabet, and also accentuation, which will be, of course, your favorite thing.